Hey guys, so welcome back. This is part 4 in this series in this RCA radio from about 1950. In the last part, what we did is we reset the tuning capacitor that was in there kind of crooked, or cattywampus as we say, and we restrung the wire to make it operate in the right direction and eliminate some of the binding that it was saying. We also, in the last part, we did some typical restoration work. We went in and replaced capacitors. We found the out-of-spec resistors and got them replaced, and then did kind of the typical things you got to do for power these days. We put in a polarized line cord, we put in a fuse, put in a CL90 for inrush, and some other things like that. And we got that all done. And as we were doing this and we were kind of wrapping it up, we started picking up some noise. And at first it sounded like it was lightning noise from nearby storms, but then I got to being very suspicious that we've got silver-mica disease in the IF cans on this. So we've been hoping that's not the case. And as we continue to do some testing, with the signal tracer and some other things, I isolated that the audio output tube, the 50L6, was making a lot of noise, both in the pin sockets that it was in, but also the tube itself. I ended up just cleaning the pin sockets and replacing the tube, and that seems to have really helped. We went through and put it through the paces, and I put it back in the box to see how it looked and everything, and it's the first time I've had it in for several months, and I really like the way it looks. So what I'm going to do, and we're going to start that off in this part, is I'm going to look at the case, see what we can do about it, clean it up, and see if we can deal with the finish. And then the next thing I want to do is then, I'm still not happy with the hum, so I found some information on lead dress. I'm going to look into that and see if that helps. So with that, let's get started into part 4. Okay, so we have tested this thing, and it plays. I think that the alignment is pretty good. I've taken this outside. I've gone down to the park even to get away from the house, and I think that the alignment is good. The selectivity and sensitivity is better than some that I've worked on. So I think that's performing pretty well. It's still an All-American 5, right? It doesn't have an RF tube, amplifier tube. But I'm not happy with the hum still. I don't know if I've become fixated on it or what, but I've been using these capacitors, and I don't know enough about date codes to know how old these are. But I begin to worry that maybe they're older than I think they are. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys know what these are. 85-degree caps. I've got a H0029 number on it. But maybe these are too old. I don't know. So what I've done is I've ordered some new capacitors in the right sizes. I'm going to put an 80 in there and get that done correctly and shorten up that lead is what I want to do. I also found in the alignment instructions for this, there's information about wire dress under the alignment procedure. So you get into the alignment procedure and they talk about lead dress. And all of this here is lead dress. I didn't see this before. And I must say that most of these things here were not observed in the initial fabrication of this. Nevertheless, I'm thinking about going in and, at least in some cases, looking to see if some of these things could be part of my problem. I'm not going to necessarily show any of this to you guys. I'm just going to go do it. I may film it anyway just in case I see something interesting so I can pass on the experience that I gained, and hopefully you find that interesting. But that's what I'm going to try to do on those things. So I'll get started on that and I'll report back either success or what we ended up doing. The capacitors that I've ordered, they're not going to be until tomorrow. So in the meantime, I'm going to go in and take the radio back out of this, and I'm going to try to do some cleanup of the cabinet. This looks very nice in dim light. I know it won't show up in this, but I can see also that it's kind of grimy, as you would expect. It captures dirt, the angle that it's at, and so forth. And this will pull out of the back pretty easily. So I'm going to take this out, take the radio out, take this out, and see if we can't polish this up and have that look a little nicer. Likewise, I may try to do some of this. What I would love is if it's possible to remove this and remove this badge so that I could clean that and not have, you know, some kind of discontinuity around here, and get it clean up to here. Before I do that, I may try to do some refinish work on this in areas that are not very noticeable, maybe on the back corners or something, and see if that will help. If it does help, then I'll be tempted to do something about this. If it looks like this is as good as it's going to get, then there's not much point of worrying about that. So that's the plan on that. So I'm going to get the case open and start working on cleaning this. Another thing I was noticing when I had this together is I started getting some of that weird staticky noise. And I noticed that when I first put this in the case that the speaker connections were loose. So what I'm going to do is clean those off and give them a little bit of a squeeze in here so that I don't have like a cold connection in here for where these guys plug in. So I'll do that as well. Okay, so here's the radio. And I'm going to put this somewhere safe, and then we can start working on the case. By the way, the area where I had cleared up the short on the end of the stroke of the tuning condenser was right over here. As this came up right here, I thought I was starting to see the possibility that I was getting a little bit of a short on that last vein right there. So what I did was I went in there with my fingernail and just kind of pushed it over a little bit and kept checking it, and sure enough, that's what it was, and then that short went away. So that fixed that issue. Okay. I want to do some exploring. You can see here that this is where the three dots are for the front badge here. But the light pipe, as you can see, looks like it'll be easily removable. So we're going to get that out. I wonder if anybody ever takes these things and slows them down to try to figure out, what was I saying? I'll leave little Easter eggs in there for people. Okay, first time out in 73 years. I'm going to say it's probably true. Okay. Here we go. You know, I said before these are gold. It might be white. It's definitely gold on the ends. Okay, I'm going to try to get this cleaned up. Those are impressions, so I might be able to do something with the lettering, although more likely I'll probably leave it alone. I think the inside of it is actually okay. I may just give it a little wipe. But the surfaces on the front are rough, so I'm going to clean that up, and there's nothing on there. It's just need to make it nice and clean, so I'm going to take care of that. Speaker, what do you think? I'm going to take it out because I know you guys want me to. If you're still watching this video, you probably are interested. I think this is a nice looking unit myself, you know, and I think it deserves a little bit of work. It's nice to see what the inside, you know, what Bakelite must have looked like when it was new. It's so nice and shiny, it has that nice gloss coat to it. Did you see me almost put the screwdriver right through the cone? Don't do it. Don't even talk about it. Okay, last one. Wouldn't it be nice if all of a sudden the way the front is held on just becomes clear and easy to deal with? That ain't gonna happen. Okay, let's see how it looks. Okay, how's the speaker look? glorious. It looks fantastic. Those are not, if you think you see something that looks like a crack or something there at 12 and 6 o'clock, it's not. It's just a discoloration. You see the reflection, you can see that's not a crack. And that spot you see there is also just a discoloration. It's not a crack. Well, it looks like it sounds. Another way of saying is it sounds like it looks. It looks really, really good. And it sounds good too. Okay, let me put this somewhere like crazy safe. Okay, let's see what we've got left. We've got a spring snap that's holding on this. I wonder if that will come off. Who wants to give that a try? It's not your radio, right? Let's try it. Get you guys so you can see. Okay. Let's see if we can get that off without destroying it. Prefer to not destroy it. Getting there. All right. That's off. I think we're going to get lucky. Okay, so if we remember what it looked like, I guess it looked like a Mercedes logo, which is what kids these days draw for being a peace symbol, right? Nice. Excellent. That's better than I hoped. That's better than I hoped. That came right out. So I'm going to try to give this some cleaning. I don't think I'm going to try to do anything to the bright on here. I don't think I can do anything really helpful on that. But in terms of maybe getting in here and cleaning this plastic up, I think it'll make it look nicer. Definitely going to try to do that. Now the speaker cloth, does it just sit in there? It's not glued? It must be glued. No, I think it's glued right here at the top, and that was how it was put in. I'm going to leave it alone. Can you see the original Bakelite finish? Can you see what the finish is supposed to be like? Look at that. Look at that difference, man. That's not a ridge. That's flat. Well, I don't know if we'll ever be able to get back to that, but give me something to look towards. Do you think I should break off that RCA Victor thing and try to reconstruct the posts and put it back on later? I'm not ready to make that call yet. Okay, I want to clean up what I can without damaging the cloth. And then I'm also going to use some Novus 2 on this, and we'll just see how this turns out. It'll be an improvement. I'm saying you can see how yellowed this is compared to where it was not out in the open. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just going to clean from the halfway mark over, and we'll see how it looks. So this left half from here to here is about as good as I think I can get it. Parts of it cleaned up really nice, as you can see. I think this yellowing here that we see is just, I guess, ultraviolet damage. Tried to really clean that up, but it didn't really do much. The other side, I know it still reflects light and looks nice, but this is very hazy through here. You can see the haze here, I think, pretty well. And here you can see that it's not as much here. The back side I've pretty much left alone. As you can see, it's actually extremely clean. But the other side is just, I don't know if people have been using some kind of abrasive on this. I don't know. But as you can see, I've polished it up pretty good. So the color that's in there is just in there. You can see I need to, this part here can be shined up some to be like this part here. Okay, I'm going to call it a night. I've done this, I've got a couple of hours of elbow grease into this. I think it's looking better. The only part I haven't done is this right here, mainly because of dealing with this. And just kind of see how this is going to shape up. It's definitely shines up a lot better than what it was. So what I did with this is I used some Novus 2. I actually don't know that it did that much. I was feeling roughness, so then I put some Novus 2 on it, and that did smooth it up some, but I didn't really use a lot of it. It seemed like it was removing, I don't know. You tell me what this is. Is that nicotine? Is that the skin top layer of Bakelite? I don't know. But I took a lot of it off. But it was smoother afterwards. So then what I've done is I've gone over it with Wax. That's dark brown. I don't think it's changed the color any. But what it's done is that where I have, I don't know if you can see this. If you look up close at this, you see all that irregularity because the skim coat's probably done. It's probably gone, right? It's probably what's causing that. So it seems to have done a pretty good job of filling that in. Now, you see a lot of lines. I think that's from my buffing. I'm going to put another coat on and see if that might do better. It's like it clumps some, and then when I move it, it drags and makes a scratch. I don't know. I'm not good at this kind of thing, I don't think. But anyway, I'm going to try another coat on this. Maybe what I need is a random orbital buffer. I have one, I think. There's a reason why I say I think. And I think I still have it. And maybe I'll give that a try. But overall, I think it's helped. The other thing you may notice is that the 73 is basically gone. I used kind of Windex, and I just kind of let it soak on there, and as I was rubbing it, I started seeing kind of a pink, which is that red marks a lot, or Sharpie or whatever that was on there. So it kind of came out. It's not entirely gone, but once the Wax went on, I think it pretty well obscured it the rest of the way. So what I have left to do is I'm going to go ahead and put another coat of wax over this, maybe get my random orbital if I still have it, out and do it. But basically I'm in a closed up garage, and the fumes of this is really starting to get to me, so I'm going to have to stop it. But as you can see, that's making a difference. It makes it look better. Continue tomorrow. Oh, and the other thing is that I did use the Novus and clean this up. It really cleaned up nice, I think. Like I say, I'm not going to touch the bright. I don't think anything I do on that is make it any better. I could put rub and buff on it, but I just don't think it's going to look better. But it really cleaned up everything here, and so I think that's actually starting to look really nice. It looks better in person, I can tell you this, than on the video. And in the person, it really kind of pops. And here's the scale. It still has that tinge to it, but I think that's about as good as that's going to get. So anyway, that goes in back behind here. Okay, so to address the hum, I'm looking at these wire dress things that are recommended in the alignment procedure, and I've looked through these and I've found out which ones of these capacitors they're talking about. Let's just kind of go right through it real quick. Dress all heater leads down to chassis weight. That's all done. All the heater leads are down right up against the chassis, so that's fine. Dress power cord down to chassis base and corner. I did not do a good job of this. That's primarily what I'm going to try to address. I brought this power cord in like here and then To be honest, I probably should have left it longer inside the chassis. I was thinking this needed to come over here somewhere. In reality, it had to come over here, but it really needs to be much longer. This neutral lead needs to really go down against the chassis and come up around here. So I'm going to redo this and get some more length in here, and I'll have to shorten this up and do something different with this. I'm going to need to do something different with this strip here, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Addressed output, let's see what we got right here. Addressed capacitor 13, addressed capacitor 18 against back apron. That's this one right here. I think it's okay. We'll see if I think that causes a problem, but it's short. I identified the inside foil, outside foil. I've got it. I'm not too worried about that one. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway. Address 13 down to base alongside of shielded lead. Now this is interesting. This is the shielded lead they're talking about. Okay, it comes off of the switch, and so this is the shielded lead here. Let's see, am I saying that right? It goes to the switch, right? It's this lead right here. Okay, and they want C13 down to base alongside of shielded lead. C13 is this guy, and I'm saying it wrong again. This is the shielded lead because it goes up to the detector. Okay, this is actually inside of that coiled up wire shield. I know you guys are probably thinking this already, but this must not be factory, right? I mean, this is kind of homemade looking. This must not be factory. Somebody's been trying to deal with this hum before me, I think. They tried to get this capacitor down lower to the chassis next to this shielded lead right in here. I think instead they put this tube over it and grounded it. So I think that's what they've done. Okay, let's see. Address output transformer leads down to chassis. They've done that. Address capacitors C9 and 15 as direct as possible. Well, 15 is our grid coupling cap right here. I've got it pretty direct. I could maybe make this wire shorter, but I think that's okay. And this is the lower impedance side of that. I checked it. So I'm thinking that's probably okay. C9 is, let's see, C9 is this guy coming off of the tap of the volume control. That is this guy. Wired as direct as possible. Well, I mean, I could tighten that loop up, but I think all that's going to do is get it closer to these other things. Out here in the space, I think it's going to be all right. Let's see. Did I skip one? C15. No, I did that one already. Okay, dress dial lamp leads on top of chassis between the 12SQ7, which is the detector, and the audio output tube. Then below chassis as short as possible for rectifier socket. Well, here they come in right in here, and they are definitely short as possible. But it says run it between two of the tubes. Well, this is where I'm saying I don't think it was ever made this way. Because if you look here, those leads, I don't believe have ever run in between these tubes. Okay, I think it's always run this way. You can tell by the way it's twisted, and there's a little bit of tape on here, and then it's joined up to here. So I think that that's the way it was at the factory. I'm going to leave that alone. I mean, who knows what came first, right? And whether these instructions were before and then they later modified the production run, we don't know. And then dress excess loops away from the tubes and clear of the tuning condenser. Well, we saw that was the case. Okay. So the main thing I really want to do is that I want to go ahead and do the power cord that I'm talking about. And then the other thing is, okay, I didn't have any 80s on hand. Well, I got one now. Here's an 82 250. And I'm going to replace this because I don't know how old these are. But the other thing is that the positive side of this goes all the way back into here, joins up, and actually ties on up here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to mount this up in here, the positive side near that post. so I don't have that extraneous lead. Now I'll need to have a common ground run off of that, but I don't think there'll be that much noise on it. So I want to try to put this right in here. So that'll allow me to get rid of this, and I may be able to change what I'm doing here. The other thing is, I was just kind of questioning how old like these caps are. So I bought another one of those. So here's a 47-250 Nishikon that I just bought new, and as I did this brown one. Okay, so I'm going to replace that and put that one in its place. I want to give this the best chance possible. I know you might be thinking, why are you redoing all this? Well, to paraphrase my reactor friend David Heretic, hey, it's my radio. I'll do it if I want to. Okay, I'm going to spare you all the pain. I'm going to go take care of that, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, I've done a couple of hours work on this. I've done a lot of rewiring. Let me kind of run you through what I've done here. Let me get something to point with. You see this okay? Okay. So I removed the 47 that I had here, this guy, and I put on a new 47 I just received. Here I had, to replace the 80, I had a couple of 47s that I wired up like this on a terminal block. I've gotten rid of this because these are, I don't know how old these are. They might be from 20. I don't know. They might be from 2020. I mean 2000, year 2000. Anyway, so instead of that, I have an actual 80 that I have in place, and I put it right up here on the socket where the hot lead went. Okay, the positive lead went. So it's in there now. Okay, and I've got it kind of near the case. Got this down. I was observing the instructions about getting the hots down to the chassis, you know, the filament lines and also the power lines. So before I had a neutral line stretching across here that went down here. So what I did was instead is I got a new terminal strip here. The old one I had here cut, and I've got it mounted over here to the same screw that's holding the fuse block on. They're insulated, okay, and this is tight. Okay, this isn't going anywhere. And so what I've done is I've brought the line, the hot lead in, and it goes to the fuse. It goes to the fuse, comes here, goes through the thermistor. You see the line runs along the chassis, comes here to the thermistor, which is away from virtually everything else, goes to the switch, comes out of the switch into a blue wire back in there, which goes straight down to the chassis and runs right along underneath all of this to get back up here where it ties on to the rectifier. Okay, the neutral comes in here and ties to this terminal tie strip, and just so I didn't waste a lot of cord, I put a tie strip here and I put another extension wire onto here and brought that down to the chassis, ran it along the bottom of the chassis and brought it up here. This is basically like a star ground or star neutral, if you will. A lot of the things that were going to the single point neutral type, you know, the floating ground, which had been over here on the switch, I moved it to here. I've got everything down near the ground, away from, you know, near the chassis, away from anything with signal on it. I've got those tied on here. So I think I kind of cleaned up this a lot, and we'll just see how it goes. Now, I'll be careful to bring this up slow in the variac and looking for shorts and all that kind of stuff. But before I do that, I need to hook up the speaker and all of that. So I'll get it hooked up, ready for the test, and then I'll bring it back and we'll see how badly I messed it up. Okay, I've got this ready to go to power up. I've got the speaker hooked up here. I've cleaned the pins, but I probably need to clean the receptacles a bit better. But they're in. We'll see how that goes. Okay, we got a fresh wiring job, so I'm going to be careful on bringing up the power, just in case I have a short. So it's plugged in. Power's on. I've installed the fuse. It's a 1 amp fuse. And let's see what we get. Power coming up, 20 volts. $40 volts. Nothing on the bulb. 60 volts. 80 volts. I'm getting filament glow on the rectifier and on the audio output tube. It's 100 volts. 160 milliamps. Here comes the sound. $110 volts. $200 milliamps. 120 volts. 210, 220 is what I was getting before. So the question is, how's the hum? I hear static, but I don't hear hum.
Satisfied with. But where you can, again, unfortunately, and this is where we have to live in reality. We are the home of the Rockets. I get that. 30. Just landed in front of me. I needed that break. He's like breaking this up for me a little because he knows I'm getting upset.
It's amazing the difference in sound quality when the speaker is not in an enclosure.
You get 4 years. Every 2 years they re-vote. Every Congress has a new speaker. Pelosi's been speaker multiple times. Pelosi had an avenue, at least, to say to her people on the Democrat side, like the squad folks who were supposedly were going to object to her.
Okay, I don't hear the hum. It may be when it goes into the housing, you can hear it. But
I'm not endorsing, obviously. I'm just trying to talk strategy. Forget the politics for a second.
I don't know if it was capacitors. Maybe it was the wiring dress more than anything.
So, and retirees have it worse because there's no time to catch up when value of what you've saved for decades.
Okay, I think that really helped. I'm much happier I did it this way. Now let's get back to the case. Okay, I thought I'd let you be here for the moment of crisis. So I was looking at this and thinking, if somebody had scrubbed this with like a scouring pad, seems like you would have had the original Bakelite finish around here, but you know, around where the letters are. But instead, it looks like it's pretty uniform underneath. So I guess it's just, you know, oxidation. So I decided to heck with it. Let's get this thing out of here. So I went to the other side and I clipped off the bits of the plastic that stick through. You might be able to see there. I clipped them off, and sure enough, what you're left with is 3 plastic posts. And I thought, if I can just get those to come through without breaking anything, then I can glue them back in. And I'll probably glue them back in with something that is not terribly permanent. Okay, so then I've been working on it, and it started to move, as you can see here. So I haven't got it out the rest of the way, but I just thought, if I'm about to break it, you guys might want to watch to see a grown man cry. I'll try not to. But it's been hard to, the reason I didn't start filming this earlier is that you can't, I can't even see in there myself. I'm having to put one hand, you know, inside and another hand here to try to position it so it doesn't go too far and break it. So I can't even see what I'm doing. Anyway, let me kind of get this on the right spot and see if I can edge out the next. There's 3 posts, and edge out the second one. I've had it move. Okay, there we go. It's moved. And I got this other one to move once before with my thumbnail. Let me get a little more on it. I can't see. I still can't see. Mount it? No. I can feel it in my thumbnail. Come on. Okay. I may just have to trust in luck. I said it before, I'd rather be lucky, right? Let's see if I can give it just a little bit of a push here. I'm going to trim that just a little bit more. And there were the flush cuts. It's hard to get in there because of the structural web that's there. Believe it or not, you guys can see about as well as I can. Okay, I think I shaved off the part I needed to get off of there. Now let's see. By the way, this reminds me, I put a note in the video because I saw it. I keep forgetting to mention that this is the coupling cap I put in the first episode. I put in the wrong one. I put in a 223, and I believe it should have been a 224 that was put in there. But anyway, I replaced it. When I found that error when I was doing the work with the little signal tracer. Okay. Budged it. It'll just come off now. Come on. Come on. Got it. Got it. Got it. You know, this would be a cool thing for somebody with a 3D printer to make. My son has a 3D printer that's one of those resin type that have incredible detail. It stinks to high heaven when you're using it, but it could definitely make this. So I'm thinking I'll just preserve this, and then I should be able to stick these 3 pegs back in the hole and just put some light glue on there. I don't know if I'll use like white glue or hide glue or something that, you know, isn't going to be permanent. In case 50 years from now another guy wants to take it off and clean it. Maybe I'll put a little note. Okay, so let's see what we're left with. See, the way that the finish is gone, I don't know. I think maybe it's just been oxidized. I can't tell for sure. Anyway, I'm going to get this cleaned up and get the finish redone. I found my orbital, my random orbital. It's gigantic. I forgot it was that big, so I can't reuse it on this. So I'm just going to do the best I can on this, and that is going to be the way it is. Okay, I'll get onto this. Okay. All right, I'm going to repeat here what I did with everything else, and I'll bring it back. Still needs to be waxed. It's not quite as shiny as the other side, and we'll get that done. This actually looks pretty good. Okay, once again, the trick is don't get it on the grill cloth. We will let that set up and then we'll buff it off. Okay, well, applying wax like this it'll make you break a sweat. As you can see, I discovered what I was missing was I just needed to keep buffing and buffing and buffing. And I got rid of most of it. I see a few more over here. I'll get them. But one of the things I think was keeping it going was I think just sweat from my hands. So I put on gloves, and that seemed to help me kind of get through the rest of this. So the waxing is finished. I think it looks fantastic. You know, maybe I'll get a little small orbital welder. I think that, I will. I a small orbital buffer. Orbital weld would be nice too, and get this shined up maybe a little bit later, but we don't need to do this on the video. So case is done. I'm going to put the trim pieces back on, and we'll get the radio back in and see how it looks. Okay, so I got in here and cleaned the badge up pretty good. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in, and then I'm just going to put like a very, like, I don't know about white glue, maybe hide glue or yellow glue to hold this in. I like the idea of hide glue because it'll loosen up with heat. But then of course this is plastic, so anyway, let's put this in. I think that was worth the effort. That looks good. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to use some yellow glue. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. I'll do it and then I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay. That's in all the way. Just put a little bit of glue on the back side of the post, just enough to kind of give it something to hold on with. And I'm going to let that get tacky before I do much else. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Ooh, I just got goosebumps. It's looking good. Okay, middle clip. All right. See the steam from my hand evaporating off of this wax. It's looking pretty sharp, I think. Okay, speaker in now. Okay, so I cleaned up the cone, blew it off with some compressed air lightly, can of air. Cleaned these contacts in here some, ran a scrubber through them to clean them up some. I'm ready to go back in. Okay, speaker is back in. Okay, let's get the chassis ready to go back, right? Okay, last look at this beauty. From long ago. There's the coupling cap I removed, as I said long ago. What do we have here? Tuner screw. Don't know what that means. 3 screws. I got 2 screws, tuner screws. Now where did those go? Oh, they went here. Okay. Yeah, tuner screw. What is this? Wait a minute now. Tuner screw. Oh, this. Where did this go? Where did this go? This is the missing screw off of the tuning gang. I forgot all about it. Well, as you can see, it's kind of boogered up on the top from them trying to over tighten it. I'm not going to put it in. The one I've got in there is solid. Okay. And now we just need to put these back 2 on, and then the knobs. It goes on there like that. All done. What do you think? I think it looks fantastic. I'm probably going to spend more time, waxing this thing. Can't do too much in the front, but I've already waxed it a couple of times in the front. And but in terms of the sides and so forth, I may do a little bit more in the future. But hey, it shows fingerprints because I've got it shine so much. But I think this thing looks awesome. What do you think we'd take this out to the park and see how it does? Let's go see.
A worse record, which they would have if the Bears lose and the Texans win. That's the only scenario where the Bears get the top pick.
So the Texans are going to pick first.
I mean, that shouldn't change your thinking because that one scenario is still quite possible. The Colts' number went down again. They're now just 2.5-point favorites over the Texans. And while Nathan Peterman is terrible, the Vikings clearly should have their way in that game, kind of no matter what. 3.
Okay, so the trip to the park was not very successful. We thought we had this thing completely done, and it turns out there's still some kind of intermittent problem that cropped back up. This is why I like to leave these things playing, and I guess I didn't leave it playing long enough. So anyway, I made it spend the night in the truck. I was like, I'm going to go inside and have dinner and call it a day. And we had a good thunderstorm, and I'm glad it had to sit out here in the lightning and the thunder and think about it. So anyway, let's get this thing back on the bench, and we're going to start tracking this problem down. So hang on. All right. So we seem to have, I think looking back on this, it's like we've had a number of noise issues that are mostly intermittent, but there may have been several of them going on at the same time. I know that we had some problems with the 50L6, right? We had the noise in the 50, we had to where it wasn't getting anything. And then went in there and tapped on the old 50L6 and boom, it woke up, but it had a lot of racket. So I was banging on that, you can hear the attic racket coming and going. So we changed the 50L6, and that seemed to be a big source of the noise, and certainly a loud source of the noise. And that was where I'd been using the little signal tracer. I was able to hear the noise coming from the speaker that wasn't originating from, let's say, through the IF cans. So therefore I had eliminated the IF cans as the source, at least of that loud noise. So maybe what we're doing is we're eliminating some of the bigger issues, but we haven't found them all. I'm fully aware that we may very well have silver mica disease in this. It's very likely. It's right in the time period when this kind of thing was happening. So we may be doing that anyway. What I'm going to do though is I was noticing some things with the way the tuning went, where it wouldn't give you any signal. Then I'd turn this and boom, we had a signal. That sounds like a short in the tuning condenser. So maybe I've got plates that are getting too close, or I've got a short, or there's somebody before me. I never do it. Maybe somebody before me used some steel wool to clean something. There's a whisker in there. I don't know. I tried blowing it out with compressed air. That didn't seem to do anything to it. But I'm going to go through, take this back apart. I'm going to go through and check what are the potential noise issues. I'm going to check for a short in the tuning condenser. I'm going to check my IF cans again with the signal tracer. I'm going to look at all the pin sockets. I may pull every tube out and clean every pin in here and clean the sockets and see if that helps anything. And it's going to be trial and error. So I'm not going to video this. What I'm going to do is go do all those things and I'll report back with what I found. Now, I may video this while I'm doing it in case something interesting happens, like, I don't know what, something interesting happens, and then I'll have video of it that I can share. Okay, reflow that connection, which includes the connection that goes into the converter tube. And I'll do this other one that goes to the oscillator. Okay. So I just redid and checked all the tie-in points for the tuning condenser. Okay, at this point I'm not going to do anything else. I want to see if we can get a repeat of the problem. So we'll know, I know it's kind of like once you do a bunch of things at once, but I'm curious to know what the problem was so that we can learn from this a little bit. So I've got a test speaker attached that I got for another project. You'll see hopefully before too long. And let's see. I think we're ready to go. I need to plug it in. Waiting for it to warm up. I see glow on the rectifier and glow on the output tube, so the series string is working. Alright. Okay, so here's our fail state right here. The volume's turned up all the way. I'm not hearing anything. Oh, that's good. SQ7. The 12SQ7 socket seems to have some kind of problem. And maybe they all do. Okay, let's go find where we're making racket. This is the converter tube. That's the IF tube. That's the detector tube. That's the audio output tube. Well, that one's doing okay.
Second, not first, in the track. So, that's...
Correspondent Jeremy House reporting drugstore change trying to find enough employees to put a stop to temporary pharmacy closures more than a year ago.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this off and I'm going to pull these tubes out and I'm going to clean the pins, and we're going to see if we get much of a change on these. I've already tested these tubes, if you remember, and they were all testing okay. I had some iffiness on these two, which I dealt with, but these tested okay, and those pins look good, but you know it is. So I'm going to clean up the pins, try to pin them, look at the sockets, look at the solder connections and those things. I'll do that and I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've gone through, and the process was I went through and I used a little bit of sandpaper, I think this is 220, on the pins, blew them off really well, then used a bit of contact cleaner on the pins, shoved them in and out of the sockets, wiggled them around, wiped them off again, and cleaned them with a Q-tip and so forth. So I'm just going to put them back in and we'll see how that works. All right, they're back in. Clear the decks a little bit. And let's go back to power up. Okay, ready to go? Looks like it. Power on. Yes. All right. Okay, let's go. 120 volts. 180 milliamps. We're not conducting yet, but the light bulbs are glowing.
But the vast preponderance in the Republican Party finally was Republican. All right,
You're my favorite conspiracy theorist, really.
okay, now this is in plain sight, Judge, so we're going to find out.
Not yet, we'll find out.
All right, Pablo, we got to run.
I got one other quick point.
Oh, you got 10 seconds, go.
Okay.
Some of the stuff that's gone on in that league in recent years.
I thought I heard something just then, kind of a snap.
Certainly.
Celebrated. March 27th. Let's get it started.
I'm going to let this run for a while, and when I start hearing it snapping, I'm going to bring you back, and then we'll do some experimentation. Okay, be back in a minute.
Honest values, and believe me,
Okay, so it's a couple of minutes later, and it's starting up.
Takes to get a home sold quickly at top dollar, and how to get the best deal possible for your home purchase. They're employee owned. They care about their clients, and they always go the extra mile to ensure that each sale and purchase is seamless and smooth.
So I'm going to try to touch one thing and see if we can make it go away.
And have been for over 2 decades. Call the Matthews team at 281-440-7900 or see for yourself and go online at ronnieandkathy.com. That's Kathy with
Well,
a
that
C.
seemed to
ronnieandkathy.com.
clean the pins, seemed to have quieted that
And they know every
motion around some.
market in Houston. Call the
It
Matthews
used to be
team.
making a little bit of racket when I did that, I think.
The Matthews team and Remax Legends.
So that's the detector tube.
281-440-7900. That's
Still there.
281-440-7900. Or see for yourself and go online at thematthewsteam.com. That's thematthewsteam.com.
IF tube.
Thursday at 6. Personal Propane Grill and I is where all the great grill masters shop for top-tier quality products to barbecue or cook a great piece of meat. Owner Bob Fulton always emphasizes to me the importance of selling a great quality product, whether it's a new grill or one of the many outdoor kitchen accessories. Don't be fooled by buying products online. I assure you, you're not getting what you're paying for. Stop by you. So it is
Still there.
And built to last for many years. And all of Illinois, 9106 FM 1960 West, just west of 249. Or give Bob a call today at 281-894-8878 or visit their website, Gas Grill.
Bound and the liberal lefty, Eric Gandel. And Eric, you've been enjoying the national media, Democrats and their media allies narrative about.
Sorry guys, I gotta have a good station. This is the best one I have around here. I can try another one. Ugh. Yeah, I need to get off that so I don't get a copyright strike, right? Or I don't have a stroke. I want to get a turntable out so maybe I can turn the null of the antenna. Hold on a second.
And that's why all this, we don't have enough resources is preposterous. Look,
I'm not hearing anything. I'll bring you back if I hear it again.
I
It's becoming less frequent and less noticeable, but I'm not satisfied we found it yet. We'll see. We'll see.
Call answer was if you get the voter register on the phone, you can find out whether you're registered or not. Beverly did a great job answering election judges' calls.
Okay, here it comes.
And to me, this idea that we now, 20 years later, have retrograded to the new normal, that you can't do it right.
Man, I'm still worried about silver mica disease. That sure sounds like it to me.
All right, Jimmy, you got to take one more call. Have a great weekend.
All right, guys.
See, now it's gone again.
All right, God bless you too. All right, Earl, you got about 30 seconds. Go.
Thank you. That's all I need. Paul and Ben, the next time Wright calls in and accuses Republicans of voter suppression, demand some examples.
We did.
Get away with that.
We did.
Yeah, I was, but he just talked right through me.
No, we did. We demanded that, and then, but he made the mistake of using the wrong word. He said "we," so I flipped it and said it was inexcusable.
When we're younger than 30 when they won, how many of them were men? How many of them were dudes?
There's the null for that station.
How many of them were... Out of 33 Best Actor and or Best Actress Oscar winners, younger than 31, how many were dudes?
Okay, so I'm going to flip this up on end so we can get into the looking at the undersides while this is all going on.
Makes listening better than ever. That's why we say you get it all. Great talk, news, weather, and traffic. And where conservatives find their voice.
Okay, we're going to wait to see we get the noise coming back, and then I'm going to see if I can find it again. So wait to see if it, when it starts to make the racket again. Okay, well, I've had this playing for several days, and everything I've done to it, it seems to decrease the frequency of any kind of breakthrough, and I haven't had it for quite some time now. So I'm all ready for it when it happens, but I'm not getting it anymore. So it doesn't appear to have silver mica disease. So the other things I've done the tubes, cleaned the tube sockets. I was concerned about the detector tube, so I went ahead and just simply replaced it. So here's the old one, and I've got a GT in here right now, and it seems to be working fine. The other thing I did was that I put an oscilloscope in here and was picking up a little bit of noise coming through that.
To keep his mouth shut and walk right into it.
I think there are times when the list said would be a better option.
See the noise breaking through on the oscilloscope?
I'm not sure that we're going to get that.
Yes.
And I would also
See that?
mention that I agree with these revelations.
So the static that we're hearing
The FBI
is on the oscilloscope now.
Interesting.
Where am I monitoring?
It's not just Twitter and the
I'm
FBI.
monitoring
It's not on just the news, John.
on the
It's
switch
also
side of the
stories
3.3.
about how Google
So it was placed
They have a special website that they've set up. It's called
on this line from the switch to this 3.3 meg resistor. So what I did was I just replaced that resistor here. And then I also, and that was about the time I changed the tube. I didn't get any more noise I could find after that. I did clean the switch a lot. This is the program, like a phono versus radio type switch. I've got a Bluetooth player back here. I've got a adapter box that I use to put stereo in and get mono out. And let's just see if this works. Pull up something to play Bluetooth on from my phone. I'm gonna switch that.
Southward or north, near plains or far, there's a Chevrolet dealer for your Chevrolet.
Anyway, have a great night. We'll see you tonight. Back here tomorrow. Thank you for being
So
with us.
that seems to work just fine too. The other thing I did was I took advantage of the fact that now I had really clean performance. So I went through and did the alignment. I did kind of a quick alignment earlier. This time I actually, spent some time with it and got the alignment done correctly. And I think it's performing pretty well. So I think what I'm going to do is put it back in the box, and we'll see how it does. I'll take it back in the car and take it down to the park, and we'll see how it receives out there. So hang on, I'll put this back in the case. So here we are about a week later, and the radio has gone silent. Now, this happened earlier, and I brought it in here, and it had gone silent. And what I did in that case was I just turned the volume knob up, and then it suddenly came in. It's like if there's a change of voltage in here somewhere that it causes whatever the intermittent problem is to change state. I don't know. So what I did was, it's happened for turning the volume control, and it's also happened on touching the tuner. So what I did this time was I pulled the controls off and left it in here running until I could come back, and it's been several hours, and it's not playing. Now I can see that the dial light is lit, so I know there's voltage going in. I've got 120 volts here, and let me look at the current draw is. Current draw is at 220 milliamps, which is the full power draw that I've been seeing on this. So the idea is I'm going to try to get this out of the case without having it go into this failed state again. And then this time, instead of touching those two other controls, my intention is to go in and try to do some measurements of some things to see what I can learn about what's happening to the signal and where it's dropping out. So I'm going to proceed with that. As I work on it, I may accidentally budge something and it'll come on again. So we'll just see if that's what happens. But if it does, then I'll just leave it running again until it fails again. And then we'll do it this way. I've got to get the 4 screws out of the bottom. Okay, so the unit is hot, and the speaker is connected inside the cabinet, so it may come alive when I disconnect that speaker. We'll see. I've got my test speaker set up here, so I can connect it up as quickly as I can. And let's go ahead and pull this out. Now I'm not going to tap the tube this time. I want to find out if the signal's getting to it or if it's some other kind of issue. See if I can get this thing up vertically while it's still connected to the speaker. Not sure I've tried that yet. Okay. I'm still connected to the speaker.
The smuggling is on the rise. An important part of this. A dozen migrants were recovered,
well, what do you know?
And 2 individuals arrested and
illegal immigrant encounters reported at the border alone. Last night, a man was found dead near the Museum District. Houston police still investigating. They first received a call from a driver about a man lying on the ground. The man said...
So would a change in the tuning or something cause this to drop in and out?
The investigation continues. More and more we're learning about the classified documents and a man who has spent decades with jobs.
Bob Bauer. It's marked classified. That comes after what he called a comprehensive search.
So I'm trying to learn where the problem is with this line. It doesn't seem to be here. It seems to be here. Yeah. Well, I don't know for sure.
America's most dramatic TV moments returns with the most dramatic podcast ever with Chris Harrison. During 2 decades in reality TV, Chris saw it all, and now he's telling.
It's kind of a mess, man. It's the kind of a mess. I'm not, like I said, I just, it seems like such a very final statement to make. I don't know, it's just,
I'm going to reflow the solder on these pins Just make sure that they've got good connection on going through them, and then I may be looking into what's going on with the speaker.
Happening today. He just doesn't really, you know, and the other,
It's just addressing one issue at a time, you know.
There's an interesting piece over at the Washington Post. This is how I know this is dumb, Oppo. Because the Washington...
Yeah, so they've lost it here.
Pitfalls. So here's the real story.
Sounds like the problem's in here.
I mean, they knew what was going on, and they were trying to work with the DOJ to hide it. That probably... And so he's trying to downplay it. There's nothing there. Oh, there's nothing there. So even if there's nothing there, what does he mean by there's nothing
So
there?
the problem seems to be this terminal here is what I'm guessing.
Is he saying that there's nothing that had stamps all over him? In his garage where his crackhead son blacked out? I mean, what do you mean there's nothing there? That's not for him to make, that's not his determination.
Might need to reflow the solder connection of the tinsel lead that goes in towards the
about keeping the possession, the whole possession
the coil for the speaker. What I'm trying to say, voice coil. There. This one looks like it's okay, but this one here is.
Because that's how it was asked. Does he have regret?
It looks like that's a bad connection there. So I'm touching here, and there's nothing there. Here it's not very strong. But it's not bad. I want to try to reflow the solder of that connection, and then I'll reflow these pins, and we'll see how it does. Okay, so I've gone in there and reflowed the solder on these connections between the voice coil wires and this terminal block, and I'm going to go in there and try to clean some of those receptacles again. Thought I'd done it before, but I'll do it again. Okay, I haven't reflowed the solder on the pins yet, but I'm just going to see if this made much of a difference or any difference.
What do the latest CPI numbers tell us? Don't believe everything you read. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
That's our... Participating Burger King restaurants. Coke Zero Sugar will fuel your new year with that great Coke taste. Satisfy your hunger and enjoy Coke Zero Sugar.
Can you say efficient speaker?
Like a sausage, egg, and cheese grist sandwich. It's sizzling sausage, fluffy egg, and melted American cheese on a toasted croissant makes for a delicious breakfast to start your morning right. And don't forget the crispy hash browns. Or if the flame grilled Whopper sandwich, BK Royal Crisp or chicken fries. Because all Burger King menu items
popularity to unprecedented audience numbers. This idea impacted me so that I started playing it to areas of counter. It was almost immediate and changed my perspective.
Okay, so I redid the solder on these two pins, and we'll put it in, and then we'll turn it on, and we'll see how she does over some time.
How many people in the history have drowned, fallen to their death, had a stroke on the set, dehydrated and died?
Okay, I'm going to switch the wires.
Any kind of injury.
See if it follows the green wire, or if it stays on the lower terminal.
But I mean, like, wow, like it's sensational. But
It's the lower terminal.
a movie is a production like any other kind of production, people do get hurt, and some mistakes back there.
There's a problem with the lower terminal. I'm going to take the speaker out.
I've been to a children's.
Okay, so I went into the socket with this needle, kind of rat tail needle file. I went in there and cleaned out the place where the pins go in, and we'll see how it holds. There's like a rivet that holds this to the plate. I'm not sure if that's where the problem is. I just figured after I clean this up pretty good, we'll take a look at what performance we got. It's okay, right?
We got more coming. We got a second hour coming up. Don't miss anything. More of the Dana Show here. Back after this.
I mean, that seems okay, right?
60 seconds of service. Road to carry the load. The Liberty Salute.
Okay, there's a problem down in there. Let's see if we can look at this together. Zoom you in.
Everyone from Tom Hanks and Bradley Cooper to Dolly Parton.
All right.
will hold a National Day of Service on September 9th, marking the 21st anniversary of the and include opportunities for volunteers.
So there's like a rivet there. I wonder if it's making bad contact with this structure here.
And the White House is preparing to shift to a more defensive posture.
The rivet is what the voice coil is soldered to, but I'm not sure it has a good connection to the to this piece that has the socket. If I move this, it seems okay. But if I go in here and mess with this,
Violence in downtown Atlanta Saturday night in the wake of the death of an environmental protester.
I don't know, I'm going to mess around with that some, or I can get my head in there and take a look at it. See if I can see if there's anything wrong going on in there.
Shattering large glass windows. They then lit a police cruiser on fire.
This one over here seems okay.
Arkansas is applauding House passage of a bill that cuts funding Democrats had passed for.
So the area I was showing you in there where I needed to get in there and maybe make a solder connection, it was just too small for me to get my soldering iron in there. And I was really worried about dropping solder down onto the cone. So as you can see, I flipped it over and put this piece of folder up in here, manila folder up in here. And what I did instead was I used a piece of bus wire that I turned into an angle. And imagine this solder is what it was. And bend it into like a sharp angle like this. Okay, and then I stuck it through the hole where the line from the voice coil comes. There was room for it to fit in there as well, and it dropped down to where it was resting very hard on this. Now before I did this, I went ahead and put a dab of flux on here and tinned this side of what you see here. And then when this thing dropped in, it was bearing directly on this. It's not, I don't have to mechanically hold it. Its own force of weight, I guess, with this in here is holding it against there. And then once I had that done, I well flowed that connection, and then I went in there and soldered this down good and then clipped the excess off that I had. And that should allow me to bypass that rivet that was back down inside of there. Right, so that rivet that's right there, I couldn't get a gun in there, I mean my soldering iron in there, and I didn't want to mess up that wire coming from the voice coil, obviously. So I thought that that was a pretty good solution there, and I think that'll work. The other one I think is okay. I'm going to just leave it alone, and we'll see how it goes. I may go in there and clean up a little bit of the flux, but we'll just see how this operates now. Okay, so we're up to 120 volts, just letting it warm up.
Conspiracy theory. You thought George Soros was going to be here. And look what happened. It's Joey Bag of Donuts, the landscaper, and his cousin, Johnny Bag of Muffins. Look, what a bunch of tools. Bunch of craftsmen.
This is a repeat, Dan.
That's what's going to happen.
Anyway, you can see that this is shifting back and forth, and I don't know if that has... It shouldn't be anything to do with connections.
I'm just telling you, don't get all spun up about these things. Because they're obvious.
But that's...
You know why
I think that worked well.
Why they don't want visitor logs?
Other side, saw in my mind's eye instantly what was on the other side. I knew there was going to be a big green grassy area. There's a big, lone, tall tree at the end of the field, and someone was sitting at the base of the tree waving at me and hollering my name. I couldn't tell who it was in this flash, but it just freaked me out so much. I paused. It just took an instant for that to come in my mind.
I think that's what it was. I think it was that rivet. The base was not making good contact to this socket structure. Got corrosion underneath there or something, oxidation. Can't get in there and clean it. Can't really get in there and solder it. This is riveted, so I couldn't take it off and rip it up, clean it over and redo any of that. But that jumper, I think, is going to do the trick. I'm going to leave the other one alone because it's doing okay. If I ever need to, I can just do the same thing. I think that made a big difference. I don't hear any scratchiness or dropping out.
I think that's reaching. I think it was a simple case, sir, of precognition, and by that I mean The mind does appear capable of, on occasion,
It's nothing like working on radio late on a Saturday night.
precise look into the rather immediate future. You know, it has happened to me only once, and it's happened to a lot of other people. It seems to be an ability we have. We cannot seem to control it. We can't call it up on demand, although there are people who claim they can. It just...
I want to say that did the trick. I'm going to let it play for a while, but I'm pretty confident we just fixed that problem.
May have had you in a slightly altered state.
Okay, guys, here we are. I came back down to the park here to get away from the noise of the house and the interference that you get these days. Turn it on. Some people using earth moving equipment not too far from here. Hopefully it's not too loud. Anyway, let's get this thing turned on and see how we do.
Why now are we finding these documents? Why were his lawyers searching the documents? This was a real question. Again, the suggestion was that when the Penn Biden Center for Chinese Grift was closing down, the suggestion was...
So it gets pretty good reception.
that had...
The alignment worked out really well, I think.
To get a second round of interviews is all well and good. Just told us conservative, actual top security in the
But the main stations I normally pick up pretty well.
Now it seems that Sean Payton...
I can pick up a few. Distant station I don't normally get so well.
All these things were happening around the time when she claimed that she was... Made your way with the LGBTQ...
Something there way in the distance.
Quý vị sẽ có được những cái điều đó, những cái
Anyway, I think it gets really good reception. The radio is working great.
As we talked about at length last week, he scheduled these interviews in advance.
The noise is all gone at long last.
Necessary
Got the case all done. I think it looks really good. Really pleased with the way it turned out. The 73 that used to be on the top, you can't see it all anymore. And yeah, I think it's turned out great.
Nobody's really sure if they're
So I think back on the things that we've had to deal with on this, I actually had to make a list. So we started off with having a problem with the rectifier tube and the audio tube. Then if you remember, the tuner was in there kind of crooked. I called it cattywampus because the grommets that were in there just not able to do the job to hold the tuner straight. And the tuner string had been wired backwards, so when you turned this run one way, it seemed to go the other way on the needle. So got that straightened out and put that back. Went through and restored all the electronics. Went back and replaced all the capacitors that were in there, apart from the tubular ceramic type. We also replaced the out-of-spec resistors. We had one of the caps, the death capacitor that they call it there, that goes between the line and the chassis, leaked so bad you could light a light bulb going through the capacitor with just 3 volts. So, I mean, people talk about testing these things with 100 volts to see how many milliamps they leak. This thing was running a light bulb. And that would be the thing that would send, line current directly to the screws in the bottom of this thing. We rewired the power to get in a polarized system. We put in a fuse and all those kinds of things. We actually did it twice because I went back and addressed the way that the wiring was done, what they call the wire dress, to try to minimize the hum. Because of the size of the speaker and the resonance of this cabinet, the RCA realized that they had to kind of give some special instructions on how to minimize the hum in here because you'd be able to hear it. I'm just happy that if you hear it, it's between stations and it otherwise does not interfere with your ability to listen to any of the program material. So that all looks really good. Then we had these intermittent problems that were coming up, the really annoying ones where I felt like I had maybe silver mica disease coming through. We had a problem with the 50L6 that I put in. We changed that out. We found we had noisy tube sockets for all the other tubes. So we had to clean those all out. We then, I believe the 12SQ7 detector was making noise. But I changed that about the same time. I just changed a resistor that was on the AVC path, and also did a lot of cleaning on the program switch between radio and phono. And between all those things, it seems like we really addressed that. And I thought that we were finished. And then I was ready to go over this thing, and about a week later, after letting this thing play, it wasn't making noise anymore. And so I had to take this thing apart and found out that now we had a problem with the connection to the speaker. So then we had to take that out in this episode, and you saw how we dealt with the issues with the speaker terminal. And we got that all worked out, and now it seems to be fine. So yeah, we got it clean, took this off, got it all polished and so forth, got the alignment done, and it seems to be working really good. So I'm really very pleased with this. I wish it would have been a lot easier to repair, but you never know what you're going to get into with these things. A lot of times you talk about opening one up, and you can see that people have gone in there and made hamburger of the inside of these things, and you think, oh, this is going to be a lot of work. And this one, opened it up, and I didn't even think somebody had been in there until after some time I realized there had been at least 6 things that somebody had done, and they'd done reasonably well except for the tuner part, but then there was so much more that had to be dealt with. And so, but now I'm happy to have it. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I now have, maybe thinking what's next. So I have 3 other projects that somebody sent for me to ask me to take care of, and I have recorded all the work on those things, and I now need to do the editing on those, and I can get them out. As I was doing these 3 projects, in the middle of the second one, I found that I needed another piece of equipment that was necessary for me to finish the work on that project. So I then had to introduce another project. So then I ended up with 4 projects, and like I say, these have been recorded, and now I just need to edit them and get them out, and I think you'll find them interesting. They're a little different, okay, than what I've been doing here. They are radio related, kind of. Two of the 4, let's say. Well, they're all related, and we'll just see how they come when they come out. But in the meanwhile, guys, I really appreciate you hanging on this one. This has been kind of a long series on this. I appreciate the comments I've been getting, especially from guys like He's the Master and Jim Newman. Appreciate the help you guys gave me on finding the schematic information and other things. And, we all benefit in the community for your comments. So thank you for being constructive and helpful, and we appreciate it. All right, guys, thanks again. Appreciate you. See you next time. Thanks.